Good morning and happy Easter to everybody. I'm going to try to make a video. I'm more concerned about the recording sound because of the sound quality. Last night I made a couple of them and I sounded terrible. I think it's because my voice has been temporarily damaged by the pneumonia that I've had. So you'll have to forgive me there. But I didn't want to wait any longer to, I'm shaking. Trying to get my coffee while I talk here. I didn't want to wait too long because these ideas in my mind about the Mandela effect have been not really bothering me, but they've been giving me cause for deliberation, and I've been very thoughtful, very pensive about it. So I thought I'd share some of my thoughts with you on this subject. Many of you probably have already heard of the Mandela effect, and then there's probably some. It's hard to gauge how many people know about it and how many people actually believe something about it, or they think it's just all made up by all these people. And I can assure you that it's not all made up. Some of the things I come across are fairly trivial, and they seem somewhat baseless. There are some people online that, like one guy recently was trying to say that one of the Rolling Stone songs, the lyrics had changed. But I remember it always being that way. It was a song called Paint It Black. And I remember the song very well. But we have bigger things to worry about than that. And that would be important if it was a real change. You could actually have a little more evidence for it. But some of the things that I am concerned about, and it started out for me with the movie Moonraker, which was one of my favorite James Bond movies, both because it was, well, I was a young man, I liked James Bond. It had girls and cars and sometimes motorcycles, and, you know, it's exciting. So young guys like that kind of stuff. And I still like James Bond movies. I hate to admit it, but I do. Anyway, in this movie, there was a woman named Dolly, a young girl. And the guy, Metal Mouth, is what we call him, Jaws in the movie. Not to be confused with the other Jaws. But they call him that because he has these huge metal teeth. And in the movie, he falls from a cable car. And this girl, Dolly, she comes along. She has a cute little figure, but she's only maybe 4'8", less than 5 feet tall, I'm sure of it. And that's what makes it cute, because he's so tall. I don't know how tall, but he looks like Andre the Giant or something. And so she helps him, and she's not really afraid of him because she's not watching the movie. She doesn't know he's the bad guy. So she, in the movie, she has the pigtails and the glasses, and she has, you know, like I say, she's a cutie, but nerdy looking. So she comes up, helps him. He looked at her for the longest time after she helps him up. And he looks at her, and then he smiles real big, and she waits. She's trying to make up her mind. What do I think about this guy? I'm not so sure. You know, haven't read the script here. Is he bad? Is he good? But in the meantime, there's something about him. She really likes him. And so finally, after much hesitation, she smiles. And bing, she has braces. And I mean, they glow. They glow off of the sunlight and the movie lights, whatever. But they shine, and you can tell that this scene was meant for that. And I went back and checked it, and the guy who wrote the scene wrote it that way, so that she would have pigtails, braces, and glasses. And I also read the movie critics, what they wrote about her braces. And folks, I'll tell you what, she doesn't have any braces now. And that scared me. I thought, wait a minute, how can that be? Because I thought it was a trick. I thought, well, there's got to be some way that they did this to us. Pardon me. But no, it's always been that way. And people even contacted her and said, why did you do this? You're part of some kind of a psyop, you know, psychological operation. But no, she said, no, I've never had braces. Now, that was the tip of the iceberg. I didn't know what I was getting into, or I might not have even looked further. But there are many other things, like the polar ice cap. Now, Santa Claus, when we're little, we're told Santa Claus comes, which I'm starting to look like him. Uh-oh, starting to sound like him too. But Santa Claus comes from the North Pole. So when you're little, you go to school, you see that there's a South Pole, and it's big, you know. And then you see the North Pole. And we learned that the South Pole is a continent, North Pole is an ice cap. That's why we always ask the questions, well, how come the North Pole isn't a continent like the South Pole? Well, because there's no land under it, but it is a big ice cap. And then Al Gore going on and on about melting the North Pole, ice cap, where would the polar bears live? Where would the polar bears live, right? So, much to my shock, really, and this is pretty scary, I looked at Google Earth first. There is no North Pole. There's just a latitude that says North Pole, and there's a few chunks of ice, but it's the Arctic Ocean. Now I thought, well, it can't have melted because it would have flooded the world. Florida would be underwater, and some of my favorite beaches over that way. So I thought about it. I went back and I studied a little bit further. I talked to a school teacher. She has a collection of globes from the 50s. Older lady. None of them show North Pole. None of them show an ice cap at the North Pole. And I'm very certain that they used to. This is what really starts to get me. These effects are unbelievable. And it's like, how could that be? So I turned to the good book. I turned to the Bible. And I started reading about different things that have changed. Now in the Bible, Luke 19:27, Jesus commands people to, he said, if they don't want me to lord over them, bring them here where I can see them and kill them in front of me. Now, I'm paraphrasing, but each Bible you'll look at, every single version says the same thing. He's telling people to bring men and women before him and just to slaughter them in front of him. Now, that's not what I was taught in Sunday school, and that's not what I want to believe about Jesus. That's very scary stuff. So I think you'll agree that that warrants an investigation. And that's not just new Bibles. You go back to a Bible that was written 400 years ago and it'll say the same thing. It might be worded slightly differently or something because of the age, but it is the same meaning, the same message. And that's what, even from the Latin and the Greek, these are scary things. And so now I am a believer. I think, wait a minute, if they can somehow change the Bible and change positions of the continents, and I don't want to get into all the changes because when you do that, when you're first introducing people to something, you come off like you're a little bit, out there or something maybe. But when you're discussing something that's very unbelievable, I find that it's best just to tell people a few basic things. And then if you pique their curiosity, they will look it up themselves and they will do their own study. Then you'll be like me, making a video. Hopefully you'll be better looking than me doing it. But anyhow, a little self-deprecating humor there. But I think that it's very important when they start making all these changes. One of the other things that made me really shake myself loose and say, wait a minute, it's not just me. Stephen Hawking, who I don't really care for, but he's very smart. He said, if you guys keep, I'm paraphrasing again, if you guys keep messing around with this, CERN particle collider, because that's what they're doing, they're tapping into other dimensions. You're going to wind up with dinosaurs walking across the lawn one day. Well, this is something very important. If he thinks that way, then maybe I should look into it even more, because he's a lot smarter than I am. So, except about certain things that I know in my heart, like about God, he doesn't, for some reason, have that, although he's changing. And I've been praying for him. I pray for people like that, because he's too smart for his own good. If my parents were here, they say, you're too smart for your own good, Mr. Hawking. And that's exactly right. So, I wanted to cover a lot of ground here, and I haven't written anything down or any notes. This is just right off the cuff. And so I hope you're, just waking up this morning, and I'm making a lot of excuses here. But staying on the subject, I think that's very important. And the geography, I've been studying quantum physics now for many years, and I don't claim to be any expert. There aren't any experts in quantum physics. But we know that CERN is tapping into other universes, other timelines. And that's what we are calling other universes, because there are parallel timelines under God's creation. And everything has turned out slightly different in each timeline. Animals are slightly different. People are slightly different. And I suppose in some of them, because they're endless, things would be very different, and to the point where we don't exist in many of them. But what has happened, there must have been some chaos I think, this is my theory, 2012, the Mayan calendar told us of a huge apocalypse. I think it happened. We just didn't realize. And we are somehow shifted into a different reality, as strange as that seems. That's the only explanation I have that makes any sense. But going along with that, in quantum physics, particles can be in superposition. They can be everywhere at the same time. And I mean, a single particle can be everywhere at once in the universe. That's really something to think about. It can be in more than one place at a time, but it can be superpositioned or in several places, and it can pop in and out of this reality or existence as we know it. So if that can happen with subatomic particles, and it happens with atoms, it happens with light, then who's to say that reality is not malleable? If reality is